Wow, the tables have turned very strongly here. We got Matt drinking Claws while I'm drinking Macallan 15. Is this opposite day? What's going on here?
I'm just trying to stay hydrated today, being responsible.
You know, that's a great way to stay hydrated. I was reminded.
What year is that? 18 you're drinking?
15. It's a 15.
Oh, I like 15. Solid.
This was actually gifted to me, my family, by our good friend Jeff Andrew for the birth of our firstborn. So thank you, Jeff.
Oh, dope. We just saw Vandrew. I think 15 is what we drank, is what I brought to my first TFTC episode 20.
Yes, it was.
Oh,
and
a lot of history of that drink.
Shout out to Michael Hawaii. I believe he got us a 12 for Saturday. Was it a 12 or a 15? What were we drinking on stage on Saturday?
Was it an 18?
Might have been an 18.
No, definitely not, right? It must have been a 12.
I think it was a 12.
It was delicious.
Anyway,
we appreciate it.
Shout out to Michael Hawaii, and shout out to our Australian freaks for the bottle of scotch as well. It was delicious. I actually enjoyed that more after the recording than during the actual recording.
Oh, it was good. The red breast. Thank you, Aussie freaks.
I want you to know that it was enjoyed. And the beauty about getting bottles of liquor at these conferences is that you have to drink them before you leave. You cannot bring them on the flight. So
it's a rule.
I don't check bags.
It is known.
Yes.
And shout out to Gary Leland and everyone else who helped put together the bitblockboom conference. It was absolutely fantastic. It was so good to see so many friendly faces again.
Yes, and for any of you freaks who may be worried out there, I'm feeling perfectly fine. No respiratory issues. I did responsibly stay home from my family until I got a negative COVID test. I went and got one on Monday. Came up negative. Feeling good about that. Matt is still quarantining because he can't get access to a quick test.
Just trying to be responsible here. I have to say though, if like there aren't a lot of positive tests, like it's going to completely change my, like a positive test results coming out of that conference, it's going to completely change my opinion of where we stand right now with this virus.
Yeah, Matt and I, before we hit record, we're trying to determine at what point does that become clear. Do you start the counter from the moment you touch ground in the hotel that the conference held at? Is it start in the middle of your stay at that hotel or at the end when you leave for the airport? It's all very, very fuzzy to me.
What's last exposure, Marty? But it's kind of ridiculous, this whole idea, like it could be 2 weeks without symptoms. I don't know. Yeah, it kind of sounds. But anyway, Marriott did a great job complying with local regulations and hosting us. They were a fantastic host. Absolutely legendary from Gary and crew for bringing this all together in the current environment. So just super appreciative over here. Had a great fucking time. And shout out to everyone who came out. Conference is only as good as the people who show up.
It was a strong group of people. Again, shout out to Gary. Always an incredible time at bitblockboom. I'm honored that we were able to do the last sort of goodbye to the conference with a live episode. It's always fun doing a live episode, getting to meet the freaks in person, and it feels like more of a conversation than. Well, this is a conversation as well, but
it's completely different. It's 100% different. I'm still not used to it. We've only done 4 or 5 of them.
They're always fun though. I like getting guests up there too. So shout out to Justin Moon and Jeff Andrew for joining us on stage.
It's the best. It's the best to have the buddies up there with us.
Yeah. Before we move on to other stuff, I just want to say my low key highlight of the weekend was late Saturday into early Sunday morning. I was outside speaking with some Bitcoiners out front of the hotel, and Barrett Brown showed up out of nowhere, at 12:30 at night, and was just hanging outside of the front of the hotel, and wound up having an hour to an hour and a half long conversation with him before calling it quits and heading to the airport early in the morning. But for me personally, that was a huge holy fuck, I can't believe you're here moment. For you freaks who are unaware, Barrett Brown is a journalist based out of Dallas who did a lot of really good journalism around the Stratford defense contractor leaks that WikiLeaks had, I believe in 2011 or 2012. He wound up getting sent to prison for 4 years. Some would argue wrongfully so and unjustly so. I think I'm in that camp. But it was just really interesting to speak with him in person and get his thoughts on the intelligence apparatus and how bad it's getting. And he is not optimistic about the future of privacy and tracking in the digital age.
That's unreal. I mean, he wasn't actually an attendee at the conference, right? He was one step removed.
Yeah, I think somebody who was there knew him and invited him later. It was like, hey, there's some cool people here. You should come check it out.
He joins the lost tapes of Tales from the Crypt.
Yes. No, we didn't even talk about the podcast, Barrett. If somehow, some way you're listening to this, you have an open invite to come talk about your experiences and your thoughts on the global intelligence agencies and their hate for privacy in the digital age. Yeah, it's fucking. It was like surreal. I was like, "Are you Barrett Brown?" He was like, "Yeah." How'd you know it was me? I was like, "Yeah, I used to be a big fan. Still am a big fan, but he hasn't been as public as he was when he was writing about that stuff." Yeah, that was my moment. What about you? You had to get out really early Sunday morning. I was surprised that you made it out into the airport.
There weren't many direct flights to and from New York, so I got squeezed on both sides. But I'm still glad I made it out there.
Speaking of privacy,
yeah,
you have an appointed
I had to
social
do
worker.
KYC when I returned back to the great state of New York.
What's going on? What's that process like? How the daily phone calls been?
It's not daily phone calls, so I had to fill out a form, and then they called me the next day after my flight, and I spoke to a person with the New York Health Department, and they basically confirmed everything on the form. And then from that point on, I get a text once a day that's like, "Do you have you shown symptoms?" 1 is yes, 2 is no. And I haven't shown symptoms, so I've always responded 2. I guess the real question is what happens if you respond 1, right?
Yeah, what if you respond 1 and then 2 asterisks? Like,
right. It's like, oh, accident. I don't know what happened. So I'm not trying to find that out. So sorry, freaks. There'll be no investigation there.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't want to send you down that rabbit hole either.
Sorry,
yeah.
Wrong text.
Wrong text. I was texting my drug dealer. My bad.
But I mean, there was more talk this week about like vaccines and passports and stuff like that, and so kind of part of me is like, maybe now's the time to be traveling. First of all, it was like a breeze flying, right? It was fantastic.
My flights are essentially. I flew in and out of Philly, and they're essentially empty.
No one's allowed to sit next to you. The security lines are super short. You know, it was kind of fantastic.
And if you're flying
Cheap.
American, a little loophole wraparound. Don't pay for a seat. Just pick one of the blue seats when you're getting your ticket. You're gonna have the aisle to yourself anyway. And if you don't, they're not selling more than 2 seats
in a row, right? You have aisle or window, basically.
Yeah. So don't
the
pay
best
for the
seats
aisle
on
or
the
window
plane.
seat. Yeah, just click the middle seat and just move to the aisle or window seat.
And super cheap. And they don't have like all these vaccine restrictions yet in place, right? Which I kind of feel like are coming. So maybe right now is like the little renaissance period in travel.
That stuff has to be unconstitutional.
It takes a while to fight these things in court. I mean, is the TSA constitutional?
According to the Patriot Act, yes, I would imagine, right?
I mean, the Patriot Act isn't in the Constitution.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know. It doesn't really matter. To me, I just assume they can just infringe on our rights, and then I'll let like the Prestons of the world, all of our lawyers fight that good fight over there.
Preston Byrne, if you're listening, fight hard against this one because that would infuriate me.
Vaccine passport things.
Yeah, fuck that. Seriously, no. And like seeing what they're doing to the kids. Like luckily my son isn't old enough to go to school yet. This year, because it seems like a complete shit show just listening to my cousins and sister and brother-in-law talk about what they're doing with their kids and the restrictions at the school, and like some of them have to show up in the carpool lane and they're not even allowed to let their kids out. The teachers have to come and take their kids out of the car and walk them in. They gotta wear masks the whole day. It's all fucked.
What's
dude.
weird in New York is the head diocese in New York, in the New York region, like closed down like 21 Catholic schools. permanently. Like they went out of business, which is weird to me because you would think, for at least from my outside observing angle, you know, like you would think that that private schooling would be on the rise in this kind of environment.
Yeah, no, in Philly it certainly has. I know the New York, the goddamn Catholic church system in this country is fucked because of the pedo diddling shit.
Is that why it's probably like completely separate from?
Yeah, I imagine
it might be separate from COVID.
It's a combination of that. Church is forced to close, so not getting donations, which drives a lot of their revenue, and then just overall apathy from Catholics who are dismayed by the state of the church here in America and the penchant for priests to molest children.
But the churches are still open. It's not 21 churches that were closed. It was 21 Catholic schools that got closed.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it's probably the latter. People just taking their kids out because they don't want them to get diddled. Which can't blame people.
Not funny.
I mean,
the wording caught me off guard.
You can't blame them. I mean, as somebody who's raised Catholic, it pisses me off personally. It enrages me. But that's a conversation for another day that won't be recorded.
Different podcast.
Different podcast is right. Speaking of different podcast, we did a podcast live in Dallas last weekend, and our good friends at Unchained Capital were the premier sponsor. And guess what, freaks? They're sponsored this episode of Rabbit Hole Recap. If any of you are on the sideline, maybe not holding Bitcoin, maybe not securing your own Bitcoin, Unchained is offering a white glove concierge service. Will they they'll take you from owning zero Bitcoin or possessing zero Bitcoin in your own wallet to multi-sig using their vault programs. They'll set you up for $1,500. You can they'll send you a couple of hardware wallets. They'll have a few video calls with you, and they'll walk you through the process of setting up a vault and taking agency of your financial sovereignty via multi-sig, in which you hold 2 or 3 keys. Unchained holds 1. If you ever need to move the UTXOs out of the vault, you can do that yourself. But if you need Unchained's help, they'll be there to be that second in the 2 or 3 signature. You need to move those UTXOs. Like I said, it's a $1,500 package. A part of that comes, like, once you set it up, they'll put $1,000 into your vault, so you get the white glove service of setting it up, the hardware wallets, and $1,000 worth of Bitcoin for this. So go to www.unchained-capital.com to check this out. We'll actually have a special link to this service in the show notes, and use the code TFTC when you sign up. You're going to get $50 off. Tell them we sent you. And on top of that, obviously, they have the regular vault program, their collateralized loans, and the open source projects they're working on, including their multi-sig Quorum creator, which is Caravan. So go check all that out again. www.unchained-capital.com. This rip's also brought to you by the motherfucking Cash App. You freaks already know all about them, but if you don't know about them, let me tell you about them. They're the easiest place to buy Bitcoin in the United States. You can stack sats, sell sats, send sats, receive sats. And I'm saying sats because you can make sats the standard in the app as well. We're not buying fractions of Bitcoin anymore. You're stacking sats, whole sats. You're stacking whole sats. On top of that, you can DCA into sats. You can set it and forget it one day, weekly, bi-weekly. If you just want to have peace of mind knowing that you're dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, you can do that in the Cash App as well. On top of that, they have Cash App investing. If you're into stonks, bad day for stonks, bad day for sats. You can stack slivers of stonks too. If your favorite company's a little too expensive, you can buy as little as $1 using Cash App investing. And because all this is connected to your bank account, there's no 4 to 5 day waiting periods. You can stack sats and slivers of stonks today. As always, you should know that Cash App investing is a subsidiary of Square, member SIPC. And when you download the app, if you haven't done it already, freaks, I don't know why you haven't, especially if you're in the United States, use the code STACKINGSATS. You're going to get $10, and $10 is going to go to our good friends at Owls Lacrosse. That's Owls Lacrosse, not that dirtbag owl who thinks I'm a woman. Owls Lacrosse. Check out the Cash App. All right, got that done.
We both got awards. Our fake lady counterparts, alter egos, got awards. That was odd.
I hate that stuff.
It's so odd.
Yeah.
Apple's down 8% today. That's some shitcoin action right there.
Right. Yeah, it's a bad day for stonks. David Day Trader's trying to hold the line. He's saying that we'll be back. There's a lot of memes of Jerome Powell and Steve Munchin-Butts going around. People wondering when the plunge protection team's going to come in and quell the markets with promises of printed money.
Within 24 hours.
Hopefully it can happen. I mean, it was so funny. Trump tweeting last night, what was it, Dow or NASDAQ all-time high? And then throwing a ding at Biden, and then
he used
today,
emojis, right? Those
yeah.
were his first emojis ever as president, I believe.
Really?
I don't know. It's the first I've noticed.
Trying to get the young vote, getting close to election season.
It might be the first presidential emojis ever, considering like he's elevated Twitter usage to the first place.
Yeah. I just thought it was poetic how he sent that tweet out last night, and today happened right after.
I know, it's classic. It's like our live RHRs, you can't help but tweet out the local top.
Right. Well, I told people to sell before we started recording.
I know, but that's blasphemy. That's not I disagree with that premise too. They should just hold off on their stack.
I'm going to tweet stamp a tweet right now to prove that you're double speaking right now.
Oh, I'm definitely double speaking. I said we should sell before the next live RHR, which was blasphemy. I said to myself after I tweeted, I was like, blasphemy. That's what makes it a joke, Marty.
I know. But no, I mean, speaking of this, like, and the Fed and the Treasury stepping in, and I guess that's a good segue into topics that I had at the end of the list, but we can move to the front. The fact that the Fed is now the biggest investor in the world. Zero Hedge tweeted out the other day that the Fed now owns a piece of 22,913 different securities, according to Bloomberg. So that makes it the world's biggest investors from an exposure standpoint. And then on top of that,
they should buy Bitcoin.
Right, they should, if they really knew what they were doing. On top of that, Bloomberg also reported this week that the Fed's mortgage buying spree is at $1 trillion with no end in sight, and they own something like 30% of any bonds that are backing the mortgage industry right now. So almost 1/3 of debt in the mortgage industry.
So it was like
the Fed,
mortgage-backed securities, and then they own the.
Yeah, I think it goes beyond that too.
In the back end.
Yeah, because remember they started investing or buying commercial real estate debt and stuff like that as well. So I think that
they should just buy WeWork, and then small companies can get their office space directly from the Fed.
Get those low rates, lock them in.
Hire me for Fed chair. These are the kind of progressive policies that I can bring to the table.
Talk about a corporate personification of misallocation of capital and poor planning for the future. WeWork. Yeah,
I mean they were always fucked.
Yeah, so what do you think of their New York real estate exposure?
I mean they were the whole WeWork play was just a super leveraged long real estate play. And they just put a ton of risk onto their. They removed the risk from the build. They removed the appearance of risk from the landlord's balance sheets, and they put it on their own. And then they just had insane projections, and they tried to rush to IPO. Like that was the strategy, right?
Yeah.
Didn't work out for them.
And re-raise.
It worked out for the founder, whatever, the guy who walks around barefoot in New York City.
Right.
He got his cash out.
That dude's such a douche.
But a lot of the VCs got fucked, right? And they didn't get their exit, and they put a lot of money in. The landlords right now, like the risk didn't help them because now, like some of these buildings in the city, WeWork controls like 6-7 floors of like 30, So, and they're not going to be able to rent those to other offices, so they kind of have to play ball. You can't.
It's probably good for the other businesses in the building, right? They get to negotiate their prices down.
I mean, look, if you want office space right now, is a good time to be, or the next like 8 months, 9 months.
Yeah. No.
The thing is, everyone's working remote. No one wants office space. That's why it's a good deal.
Did you ever work in a WeWork?
No, I've been to like other people's WeWorks. We recorded in a WeWork for a while, or the WeWork competitor, right? Oh no, it was a real WeWork.
No, yeah, that was Diggs' office.
Our original studio.
South Williamsburg. Yeah, I mean, I worked in one for 2 years at a company that was that sold offshore software services. I did it to learn more about software, particularly back-end software. But having that experience, like looking around at the other companies on the floor, and including the company, I was like, there's no reason we need a New York office and didn't need to work from home. But looking around, it was just like Groupon competitors, like dog walking app competitors, like in like the worst bottom of the barrel. I was like, there's no way WeWork keeps this shit up. Like all these companies are dog shit.
And the key with WeWork was these short-term leases, right? So it's like if the majority of your leases are 1 to 3 month long leases, and a fucking crisis like this hits, like other companies are just gonna be like, I'm out.
Yeah,
that's why the whole play was just like a hide the risk on WeWork's balance sheet play. That was the whole play.
Yeah, and they tried to position themselves as like full stack. We'll get you the office space, and then we'll build the software for you to communicate. And
very just top things. No big deal.
Just top things. Speaking of top, you mentioned the local top at RHR in Dallas last weekend. It would be remiss of us not to peruse Clark Moody's dashboard. The current price of Bitcoin is $10,726. Currently costs, $1 will get you 9,323 sats. 1 Bitcoin will get you 5.5 ounces of gold. Right now, the market capitalization of Bitcoin versus gold is 1.59%. And if you're looking to buy a barrel of oil using Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin will get you 249 barrels. We're currently at block height 646,606. The predicted next difficulty retarget is September 7th, so that is 4 days from now, 530 blocks away. As of right now, it's projected to be a downward difficulty adjustment of 1.6%, so blocks are coming in about 11 seconds more than the 10-minute block target. Fees right now, immediate, next hour. Looks like we got some congestion on the network, 122 sats per byte if you want it immediately. Next block, if you're willing to wait an hour, it's 117 sats per byte. If you're willing to wait a day, you can get 2 sats per byte, and a week, 1 sat per byte. So it looks like you will be playing in that fantasy football league, Matt.
Oh, you saw that I paid my dues with 1 sat per byte?
Yeah. Did it go through yet?
No, it hasn't gone through yet. That's Nick Ward's fantasy football league, the Sat Bowl, which Marty won't be joining us this year, but we have a good crew in there.
You know what? Fantasy football is always something I half-ass, and if sats are on the line, I can't half-ass it. Like last year, I auto-drafted.
Yeah, a million sats per person. Marty was free money last year. I mean, we have Gladstein in there. We have Brian Harrington. Nick Carter is joining us this year. It's a good crew.
Yeah. It's I love the app that you guys use. It's a very good league. I just do not have the attention span to pay attention to fantasy, and I always forget to set my lineup, and I just lose money year after year. I need to stop doing that.
Yeah,
especially
it's a smart move.
Yeah.
Especially after you auto drafted last year.
Yeah. I'll never let that down.
The Samurai Whirlpool unspent capacity is at 1,501 and 49.49 Bitcoin, 49 million sats. I want to just unwind this for a second, because it's come to my attention that people don't know why we think that number is an important stat to watch. Specifically with the Whirlpool implementation, Samurai's CoinJoin implementation, the idea is they want any user of the implementation to fall into this liquidity pool, and this is what this unspent capacity is. So because Samurai, the way their implementation set up, it requires at least 2 remixers, but usually it's 3. So usually you have 3 remixers coming into each round and 2 fresh CoinJoin users coming in. So because those 3 keep coming in as remixers, and anyone who is in there remixes for free, you basically have this situation where anyone who comes into the pool could be anyone else in the pool. It's like the ultimate crowd that you're hiding among. It creates, like, instead of instead of like distinct rounds, it creates this like kind of cloud on chain where it's like anyone who goes in is part of like the samurai. They have a word for it, but the samurai group. So that number is super important to watch. We want to see that number go up. It's also a harder to game number because you can't keep recycling coins through to boost the number. The number is just how much is in there right now at any given time. And since I've been tracking it in August, in early August 10th, it was at 1182 Bitcoin, and now it's at over 1,500 Bitcoin. So that's a pretty big jump up. Yeah. So that's why we track it.
Yeah, it's good to see that number going up. 1,500 Bitcoin. Is that approaching the how many Bitcoin are on Lightning right now?
It's over Lightning's capacity.
It's over Lightning. Yeah.
Lightning's public capacity. Lightning's public capacity is 1,057.
Yes.
And Liquid's capacity is at 2,600.
Yeah, around there. A lot of debate about whether Bitcoin locked in Lightning versus Bitcoin wrapped on Ethereum stuff. Is Lightning failing because of that? And I think that's a good conversation to have that we don't have on the list, but I think you need to separate the two because, I mean, it just seems obvious to me at least, and again, a bit ignorant because I don't fuck around with Ethereum and I don't experiment with this and I don't use Ethereum, but from what I can tell just from observation on Twitter and visiting these data websites, it seems that most people are using Bitcoin as collateral to then turn into stable coins on Ethereum to chase yield, where I would argue that Bitcoin locked in HTLCs and channels for Lightning is used for utility, like actually using it as a monetary good and not attempting to seek yield. I don't think most node runners are currently trying to profit as routing nodes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's apples and oranges. It's more comparable to something like Liquid, if you want to compare Bitcoin locked on Ethereum. Basically, depending on which token you're using on Ethereum, it's either a single sig or a multi-sig Bitcoin address that is just holding the Bitcoin locked up, and then they give you a token separately, right? And there's like a ledger in between that's keeping track. With Liquid, it's a bigger multi-sig than on Ethereum usually, and on Lightning, it's a 2 of 2 multi-sig. But with Lightning, it's actually trust minimized. There's no central party that's doing it, so the security model is a little bit different. It's nice that you don't have a trusted party, but it's also harder to like juice the numbers. You know, like if you're Blockstream and you want to juice the Liquid numbers, the amount of trust you have to put into putting it into that federation isn't that high. If you're one of these Ethereum token players like BitGo and you want to boost WBTC, like you can trust putting in a ton of Bitcoin into your own 2 of 3. And then of course on Lightning, it's not showing private capacity, but I assume private capacity right now is much lower than the public capacity of 1,000 Bitcoin that we know of.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's an interesting phenomenon to watch on play, particularly the use of Bitcoin as collateral and Ethereum apps. And so, like, one of these quote-unquote tokenized Bitcoin products is Ren. And the Block reported yesterday, I believe, that Ren's core team holds the keys to nearly 160 million in Bitcoin in a single wallet. Which is, whoa, what the fuck?
It's super easy to scale that up, you know? It's just not, it's very reckless.
Yes.
But
they plan to further decentralize that.
Yeah.
They have a decentralization roadmap.
I mean, that's ridiculous, right? To have a like if there's a roadmap for decentralization, it's probably a lost cause.
Yeah.
You see my tweet that I got some people angry about the
the yield farming.
Oh no!
People are
not that the
people are dumping stuff.
The Electrum hacker, someone was using Electrum and they got phished for 1,400 Bitcoin. Oh
yeah, so more Bitcoin than
the Lightning network.
Lightning, yeah.
So here we are. We talk about like security all the time. You know, what's the better way to do it? All these obscure ways to get your coins lost or whatever. And then this dude, this like OG Bitcoiner, just has 1,400 Bitcoin. Just like sitting in a hot wallet, gets phished, downloads like a client that's a compromised client and just gets his Bitcoin stolen. You know, that's how early we are still.
I thought I read a report that he was able to double spend and get that back, or not double spend, or replace.
That was someone else.
Replace by
People were
fee.
confused, I think. But there are people that are saying he didn't actually lose it. I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. It's provocative.
Yeah, be wary of election phishing schemes. They're very rampant, easy to fall prey to.
It was the old client. The old client would, if you connected to a malicious Electrum server, it would pop up a link and it would download it.
Yeah, just always download from GitHub.
Yeah, or like use a hardware wallet is a big one. You know, this is one of the things. It's like we going to the nitty gritty on this podcast, and then the majority of loss happens from like phishing attacks and hot wallets and basic shit.
You're like, if I had 1,400 Bitcoin, like what the fuck? How's this dude fucking this up so bad?
I know, it really shit like that really makes you feel like a pleb.
Right? It's like fuck.
I like it. He could have put some of it into fucking CoinJoin, you know, or Lightning. Like, come on, dude.
You could double the Samurai liquidity right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's fucking crazy. You could double the Lightning known capacity. That's fucking insane. That's how early we are. We need, like, the whales to make some waves.
Well, I think it should be organic, right? Tying that back to the Bitcoin tokenized on Ethereum, I think that's very gameable.
It's not organic at all. If you look at that number, it just goes straight up. Same with Liquid, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, I have no need for Liquid. We've talked about this before. I mean, I'm more interested in Lightning. And I think, and with that,
Liquid.
With that being said, I'm actually very content with the pace of Lightning's build out right now. Having spoken to some of the developers, I actually spoke with Ryan Gentry, who's part of Lightning Labs over the weekend at bitblockboom, and he got me all jacked up about Lightning and the things that are coming out there and the type of use cases that will be enabled in the near future. And I think the pace of progress right now is fine with me. And again, I'm an individual. I have my own time preferences and own gauges of what is acceptable and okay in my book. Maybe people have different expectations and are not satisfied with the pace of development. For me personally, I like slow and steady. Keep it simple, stupid. Just put your head down and grind. That's what the Lightning Network build out seems to be doing to me.
No, I mean, I'm optimistic about Lightning. I just think, you know, Bitcoin Twitter gets ahead of itself a little bit sometimes. And just we're earlier in the process than people would lead you to believe, or lead themselves to believe even. They're just not even honest to themselves about where we stand currently.
What are some of your biggest gripes?
No, like for instance, like there's 1,000 Bitcoin in public Lightning capacity. Like there just isn't that much, you know. They're like the metrics we have to measure usage, like isn't that much. A lot of people are using custodial wallets. You know, a lot of people are using KYC custodial wallets that are just, you know, like I love Strike, but like kind of not really.
Well, that's,
you know, it's an adoption hack in the beginning.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. I would concede that. Easily concede that. But again, like with the build out, the steady pace, again, it takes fucking time. I'm not yelling. I'm not like.
No, yeah.
I'm just I'm repeating, like, this stuff takes time. So like looking at what like the Boltz team is doing to create a non-custodial wallet experience that's similar to an on-chain wallet where you just send Bitcoin to an address, it automatically opens a channel and balances it for you. Like that is a needed first step. There's an order of operations to building this stuff out, and stuff like that seems like on the front end of that order of operations.
Yeah, I think Phoenix and Breeze too are doing like fantastic things. I mean, I think the future of Bitcoin is going to be mobile dominated. I think for a lot of people, their whole ecosystem, their whole life in Bitcoin will just be mobile focused.
Yes, I mean,
just because our lives are.
Yeah, I think you'd be stupid not to think that, right?
Yeah. I thought of the word I was thinking before is the samurai cluster. So it's like when you go into a round, you like end up in this cluster. Obviously, the more remixes you do, the more in the cluster you are. But like even just one round, and like all of a sudden you could be like almost any output in that cluster, which is like kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
As long as you use your own dojo. Otherwise, you're trusting Samurai with your privacy.
But who was it? Was it Elking that put out the percentage of users using Dojo? It was pretty high.
Oh, no. It's the Samurai team have released that number, but there's no way to verify it without trusting them.
Oh. Well, they're saying it's like hot.
I would argue that the percentage of users isn't as important as the percentage of the liquidity.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Like we were saying with like this Electrum guy who had 1,400 Bitcoin, right? Like it's presumable to think there's like a couple whales in there with like 200 Bitcoin, 300 Bitcoin in the unspent capacity, right? If like if those 10 people that are dominating, you know, obviously it's not great if we have a small amount of people dominating the liquidity pool, but if they're not running Dojo, I mean, if they are running Dojo, they're running their own node, then those people are still a threat, but Samurai is not as much of a threat anymore. That's what I have like a whole thread on this that I try to describe it. It's a complicated, nuanced topic.
Yes, and we discussed it on Saturday on stage.
Kind of. I don't know. We'll just discuss it forever, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
One day, I just want the mob to come after me so I can just stop
and just like run you off the internet.
Just run me off. I'll walk into the crowd. I'll just like walk into the distance and just.
We should do
away.
that together. We should do that together.
We'll
do that one day for you.
It's inevitable. I always think I'm just one episode away from the mob coming for me. It's the important way to live your life in Bitcoin land, I think.
Yeah. Always have the pleb mentality.
Yeah, stay humble.
Speaking of staying humble, we got to stay true to our listeners here. We got to read some shout-outs. We did not read shout-outs on stage. I'm sorry. Matt made me aware that some freaks wanted us to, and I can see why. There's a pretty big announcement in here that we'll get to. We've got 5 shout-outs. Unfortunately, it just logistically was not possible to read them on stage. Marriott's printer was broken. Couldn't print out the shout-outs. So we're going to make up for it. I know some of these are delayed. The one. No, we received the Bitcoin, so I have to read it. It was paid, but it says invalid. I don't know why, but I have to read it. First one. I, Uncle Marty, do hereby solemnly swear to avow that I will never again abuse the generosity of the freaks who kindly buy Uncle Matt and I fine bottles of whiskey to share together over TFTC pods. My egregious past where I had to fess up to opening such a bottle in absentia of Uncle Matt shall not occur again. Peace and love from freaks everywhere. Hey, we opened that bottle together. No, we got a second bottle sent. I drank it, Michter's.
I co-signed that shout out, freak. I appreciate you.
I have not opened any bottle since that Michter's bottle. And how can you blame me for opening that bottle?
Such a good bottle. So good.
I didn't know it was. I think it was at like the darkest pit of the COVID quarantine too. It was just staring me in the face.
I know that's why it's hard to blame you, but at the same time, it's why it killed me the most.
How about
the best whiskey I've ever had is that Michter's. It's like Michter's 18 or something, right? What is it?
It's something like, I mean, it was old. Founded in like 1780 or something like that.
Yeah, but the number of years, it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very good bottle of whiskey. I will, to make up for my indiscretions, will buy a bottle, and won't open. I'll give it to you. I won't even imbibe it.
Well, that's
myself.
A pretty expensive bottle.
You know what?
I think it's like a $200-$300 bottle, Marty. I don't expect you to buy that for me.
If that's what it costs to make good on this indiscretion, you know what? So be it.
Me and the freaks will just hold it above your head for a couple of years.
See, I can't have that. This is why I need to buy the
bottle. Well, we appreciate it.
Appreciate that. This is a funny one. I guess this is 2 freaks have an inside joke with each other, and one will understand it once you hear this. Joey, particularly. Joey, you big-time dummy. Stop wasting your life working for nickels and dimes above your pay grade. Stop it right now, you big-time idiot. Your friend Dan. So that was a message to Joey from Dan.
That's fantastic.
Get
your shit together, Joey.
Yes, and this is what I assume was what one freak wanted us to read live on stage. It was sent at 3:53 Eastern, 3:53 p.m. Eastern on the 29th, the day we recorded. the live episode, and it says, I'm getting married today and starting a new chapter in life. Without Bitcoin and all the good, honest people I've met online and in real life, I honestly don't know where I would be today. Bitcoin and my soon-to-be wife saved my life. The world is changing quickly. Luckily for me, I found someone who shares my values to the core and will go to war for me. Much like the people I've never met in the flesh, but we have one thing in common. We see Bitcoin as a shining light in times of darkness, a way out of debt slavery, and a tool to fight off the tyrants who want to steal our time. I tear up thinking about the ancestors who were born into a system of rent-seeking, nepotism, and usury. They made do as time slaves and march forward. At no point in my life have I bent to the will of others. I think there's a typo here. At no point in my life have I bent to the will of others who want to do harm to me or my family. I live by the idea that Bitcoin, liberty, and freedom are things worth fighting for. I have a front row seat. Here's to a most peaceful revolution from Stan, S-T-O-N. Stan.
Cheers.
Cheers. Congrats on getting married. Knock up your wife. Start a family. I'm very happy that your life has been saved and that you are here listening to this podcast and generous enough to purchase a shout out. I wish you and your wife well on your journey through marriage, to death do you part. And yeah, I mean, I co-sign everything you said about Bitcoin. It's providing a very optimistic path forward and hopefully a quote unquote most peaceful revolution.
I'm just happy for you guys. Congrats.
Yes. So this is actually 2 shout outs. There's 1 shout out. Somebody had to pay for 2 because of the character limit. So this is a long message. Stack for freedom. My fellow freaks, now is the time. Collect all your fiat trash, every last dime. Scrape it all together before it's too late. The money printer is going brrr, and society is filled with hate. The bull may be upon us, and Bitcoin's time has come. Sats are still available, so you better keep getting some. So stack those sats daily and stack with all your might. Stack during the ups and downs and even through the night. Stack for your future and for the ones you hold most dear. Stack if you are greedy and stack if you live in fear. Stack for your freedom and stack for a way to opt out. Stack when you are confident and stack when you have doubt. Stack is an act of defiance to a system that is flawed. Stack for something pure and true, a system without fraud. Stack because it's peaceful and fixes many things. Stack to lift your burdens and propel your life with wings. Stack if you are hungry or even if you are full. Stack if you see a bear or if you see a bull. Just remember to keep on stacking and trust your DCA. Though all your friends will call you crazy, it will pay off someday. And so this message is a thank you to our boys Marty and Matt for reminding us to stay humble and stack every single last sat. Love the podcast from your fellow freak at Anon Hodl. That was beautiful. First poem. First poem.
One of the freaks out there should split that out. Marty reading it, post it on Twitter.
Yes, and if a freak doesn't do it in the next 24 hours, I will do it because I didn't even know it was a poem. I hope my cadence was good there. Anon Hodl ran into that. I'm used to reading children's books right now, so I think my rhyming cadence is actually perfect for that particular shout out. I've been practicing. All right, last one. And Matt, hang with me on this. There's going to be a frustrating part at the end, and you'll see why.
Okay. Maybe I should get some whiskey.
Yes, you should. My fellow mountain men, I'm about to elope with my partner of 4 years. Second marriage, let's go. I love you, Button. Also, behold my new LN routing node, bitcoinguyBad.onion. I'm actively rebalancing the channels, and I invite any LN freaks, Lightning Network freaks, to open up more. All I ask is that you keep a stable uptime and your fees reasonable. For all the other Linux beards out there who are waiting to set up a node, learn just 2 more package managers, and you can run about any Lightning Network tool. Pip, these are the 2 package managers, I imagine, PIP pip and npm I stopped reading here. Okay, and npm. So download pip and npm, and then you're not going to be frustrated because I don't have to read this part. I'll read it to you off air. Somebody wanted me to stop reading that. So if you're looking to open up a Lightning channel and you're serious about keeping your node up and stable, look up bitcoinguyBad.onion. I guess that's his public name. That's all for the shout-outs. Thank you, freaks, for the shout-outs. We love them. tftc.io/contribute. It always brings a smile to my face. And Matt, I watch him as I read these. We love that you freaks tune in every week, and you have you're passionate enough that you would send us some stats to read something on there. We really appreciate you guys, and thank you for all your viewership and support over the years. And congrats to the two freaks who got married over the weekend, over the last week.
We love you guys. Yeah. You all make it worth it.
Yeah, elopements. Big fan of elopements. I got eloped. Takes the pressure and the stress out of planning a big wedding.
Save some money to stack sats instead.
Yes. Treasure and keep key passphrase vulnerability. Ooh. We're getting into the list. This is a bad one. Man in the middle attack.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is like really, it's a disappointing vulnerability to see. Basically, the idea is on the Trezor, the keep key is a clone of the Trezor. So it's the same software because Trezor's open source, so they forked it. The idea is with the Trezor, you can enter the passphrase on the computer or on the device. Obviously, you should always enter it on the device. The original Trezor, you can't enter it directly on the device. I think they made a way for you to try and use the two buttons in conjunction with what you see on the screen. I'm not sure. I haven't used it in a long time. But the general rule of thumb is you want to enter it on the device. And the reason is for attacks like this. The real reason that people usually say is because someone could take your passphrase, which is that 25th word at the end of the seed. You have your secret backup words. At the end, you have this one word that's your own word, and that's the passphrase, and it's not stored on the device. But in this case, what happens is the computer sends a malicious passphrase to your device, and then your device shows you a receive address that's not at your passphrase. It's at the attacker's passphrase, and the attacker can hold it ransom. Because the attacker still doesn't know your seed, but they know the passphrase. So they could be like, if you want to get your funds, you have to pay us. So now the device confirms the passphrase on the device's screen.
Yeah. It's a bad ransomware attack.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that an attack like this was still possible.
Yeah.
Over this amount of time.
Shout out to Shift Crypto team for responsibly disclosing that, getting that bounty from Satoshi Labs, and making sure that people are able to upgrade safely before anybody was attacked.
Yeah, they have the patch up. It doesn't look like anyone has gotten hit by the attack, so that's good.
So we have links to the vulnerability disclosure and the blog post in which Trezor announces the security patch.
The Keep Key isn't patched, though. So if you're a Keep Key user, well, first of all, you should get a better hardware wallet. But if you want to continue using the Keep Key, make sure you enter your passphrase on the device. Just in general, you should be doing that.
Yeah. We already hit on the Electrum phishing attacks. We won't repeat that. Just if you have 1,400 Bitcoin, this will be the last word on that topic. Might not want to hold it on a single sig Electrum.
Like even if you have 10 or like 2.
Yeah, seriously. That's a good point. If you have 1,400, you should consult an expert. You should pay for somebody to help you.
And the simplest thing you can do is use multiple wallets,
Yeah.
Like just compartmentalize. I always pronounce that word wrong, but if you separate it, then you can only lose one of the wallets. You can't lose. Well, I mean, you could lose them all, but it makes it more difficult.
Yes. Our good friend Janine has released her August 2020 this month in Bitcoin privacy report. It's a 29-minute read for any of you freaks who are interested in Bitcoin privacy specifically, and a couple of the topics that are included this month include full node deep dive into Ronin Dojo, cross-chain atomic swaps with Monero, malicious Tor exit relays, dust attacks, the solution to SIM swapping, what is it, what is an XPub, debating blockchain analysis, and a bunch more. There's 14 topics pertaining to Bitcoin privacy. Yeah, shout out to Janine.
Everyone go check it out. It's really good. And we've mentioned it before on the podcast, but she's updating it live throughout the month on GitHub. So It's kind of cool. It's just it's a nice resource that you can follow. That's what I do. I just keep track of it throughout the whole month.
Yeah. The one thing that's mentioned on this list that sparked a thought in my mind that's not on our list is the cross-chain atomic swaps with Monero. Did you see that news about the chain analytics company hired by the Department of Homeland Security that claims they're able to cybertrace their
Cypher, I think.
Yeah. Cypher, whatever it is, but they got contracted out by Department of Homeland Security, and they're claiming that they can track Monero
transactions. It's mostly bullshit.
You think so?
No, I was looking into it. So it's actually a vulnerability that Monero researchers figured out. That you can you can decrease the anonymity set. They call it mix-ins. Like the amount of UTXOs that are participating in each transaction. Some of them are decoys, and you can remove the decoys, and you can get a better idea. So Monero already had patched this vulnerability, is my understanding. They had already patched this vulnerability, and CipherTrace is kind of just, riding the high from it. They're a surveillance company. They always, we should both not take them. We should not underestimate them, but you also have to remember that a lot of their shit is just marketing to regulators and marketing to the exchanges and overstating their capabilities.
Yes. So be aware. All you should have used Monero stands out there. Shame. Beware. So it seems like it may be a nothing burger. The Russian government, they're passing a bill. A bill is proposed. I don't know. Does Vladimir Putin just stamp it if he likes it?
Yeah, I think he just decides, one morning he wakes up, he's like, all the miners need to tell me who they are.
Yeah. So that's basically the gist of the bill is that the Russian government wants people that are mining Bitcoin within their borders to report to them with very granular information.
Technically all data center operators, but
yes.
Miners also fall under it.
So there is a quote in the article from CoinDesk that will list to the CEO of BitRiver, Igor Runets. He was quoted as saying the government needs this data to monitor the digital economy development. Right now, nobody's gathering information about data centers. On the other hand, including commercial information into such reports seems redundant. He's saying that they already have all this data, so maybe it's just a public posturing that, hey, we're watching you, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, especially for the bigger mining firms, power analysis gives you away pretty easily.
Yeah, especially if you're on grid. That's why we like off-grid mining at Great American Mining.
But, government in general has never been known to be very efficient, so.
Yeah, speaking of governments and Bitcoin, South Korean government, or a police agency under the purview of the South Korean government, has seized BitThumb, which I believe was the largest exchange.
Yeah, they're the biggest one in South Korea. And South Korea is a big-ass market, too. They're one of the biggest markets in the world.
Yes.
But they got seized over bullshit. Do you see what the seizure was about?
BXA tokens?
Yeah, it's always the shit coins. They got caught up in the shit coins, and that's what took them down.
Yeah, what? I've never even heard of BXA.
Neither have I. It's some South Korean token.
Yeah.
They sold them they did some shiesty shit with it.
This is why you don't shitcoin freaks.
Shake my head.
Shaking my head too. Let's see, last week the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency also seized Coinbit, so 2 exchanges got seized for allegedly inflating about 99% of its trading volumes, which resulted in unfair profits of at least about $84 million for the exchange and its team.
But that was the other exchange. That's not.
Yeah,
BitThumb,
yeah,
right?
Coinbit. Yeah, that's a trick as old as Bitcoin. The Asian exchanges spoofing volume.
Wash trading.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? OKCoin and a couple others were doing that egregiously in the past. Wobie.
Well, it's not. There's no really easy option because the easiest way to stop wash trading is KYC AML regulation. So, to have a more privacy focused exchange, it's harder to kind of enforce anything.
That makes sense. Makes total sense. But if you go on something like bitcoinity.org, Bitcoinity, right? Yeah.
Well, like
they have pretty good historical exchange data, and it's actually funny. There was a point in time where China started cracking down on the wash trading.
Yeah, you just see it fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
No, but like think about it, right? Like wash trading at its core is someone is selling and they're buying from themselves, right? So if you can't identify who the buyer and the seller are, then you can't enforce wash trading. Right?
Yes. But
so
isn't the assumption that the exchanges are the ones doing the wash trading to
yeah,
make
but
it
I
seem
mean,
like
look,
there's more volume,
better
so more people
exchange
use them?
visibility, happens when you're also doing KYC AML and following all those regulations and whatnot.
Yeah, but like, do you think BitMEX was doing wash trading?
I think a lot of people think they are or were at least, and that they were at least trading against their customers without properly disclosing everything. That's a very common accusation.
That is a very common accusation.
And there's no way to prove it.
So I guess the core of the question, and maybe you just answered my question, but there's no way to prove it, is does a exchange that enables users to sign up without AML, KYC, are they highly incentivized to wash trade?
Yeah.
Or
it's easier for them to get away with it.
Yes. But do you think there are pure exchanges out there that offer no KYC AML services and don't wash trade? I guess that's the question.
I don't think before BTCE went down they were. But like there's no way to prove it.
Yeah. For you freaks who don't know BTCE, they were a infamous Russian exchange that was known for basically cleaning dirty money laundering. And it depends on what maybe it's only dirty money in the definition of the state, but yeah, I think a lot of Mt. Gox coins got washed through BTCE, and I think Wiz actually did some chain analytics on that. Matt, you're just shaking your head.
No comment over here. Just no comment on the record over here at all.
What? Am I going to be in trouble for having a comment on the record?
No, I don't
with
think
this?
so. I just it's for whatever reason it's a very sticky subject.
Yeah, that was a interesting exchange, Caesar, though. Wasn't the founder of BTC caught in like Belgium or something?
No, he was in Greece on vacation.
Greece. Yeah, that's
they
what it was.
drove a car, an unmarked police car, through his gate, and then when he ran out in his like boxers, I imagine him like in his boxers and his like in his robe, smoking a cigar, right? Like he runs out screaming Russian things at them. Then they arrest him. And the reason they do this kind of tactic is because your computer is encrypted when it's off. And by doing that, he was still logged into his computer and they were able to go in. And they did a similar thing when they got Ross. Not as exciting as that, but they got him in a library before he could turn off the computer while he was actively logged in. Yeah,
they had like a whole diversion thing too. Like, hey, look over here around the computer. Yeah.
But like you can just imagine like driving this car through the guy's gate. He runs out like screaming, "What the fuck's going on?" And then all of a sudden the cops just swarm.
Yeah. Damn. I'm not gonna say R.I.P. BTCE because I don't know like how clean that exchange was, but
they were always good to their users. I'll go that.
Yes,
like they never did. They had the ability to do like really shiesty things to their users, and they never did. So
that is true. I'm gonna skip ahead a couple topics and we'll circle back because I think this just ties into what we're talking about now. There's an Alpha Bay dispute, and the moderator got 11 years in prison.
Well, first let's start with the Empire Market exit scam.
Oh yes, I missed that.
Which is the largest dark market. I don't really follow the dark market world that big, but Bitcoin is still king over there. Monero is creeping up, but Empire Market was like the dark market, and it appears that there's an exit scam going on.
Some like $30 million taken.
Yeah, I think is that what it says in the CoinDesk.
Yeah. Administrators fled with an estimated $30 million in cryptocurrency. Darknet Stats was the reporting entity to break this.
My favorite follow in this topic is dark.fail. And he's got dark.fail. Dark.fail is his domain. But it's dark.fail is his Twitter account. And he's just a really great follow on all of this shit. He follows it all.
Yeah, he said in the CoinDesk article, he's quoted as saying that while it's easy to have a sound ideology when creating a darknet market, when thousands of Bitcoin become involved, greed cannot defeat all good intentions. So be careful.
Well, the other thing is Empire and a bunch of other darknet sites and just a bunch of onion sites in general. These Tor sites have been under like constant DDoSs. And Dark.fail, I think, reported that while they were battling the denial of service attacks, like some server information leaked out too, so they might have gotten spooked. And I think this is where it really connects into this Alpha Bay moderator, who this guy was. He worked in Colorado. He lived in Colorado, and he was a dispute moderator, right? So he was like, if something went wrong in a trade, he handled that process and like screening for scams on the website. Which was like an eBay for drugs and whatnot, and he got 11 years for that. Like he wasn't like a top guy.
Yeah, it's fucked, dude.
11 years is a long time, man.
He was just an arbitrator, right?
Yeah, he was. He was a dispute moderator, is what the Justice Department called him.
Yeah. So this happened. This was sent out by the Eastern District of California, that attorney's office.
So Alphabet was a big one before Empire. So it's like the stakes are really high with these guys, and yeah, you never know. You never know when it's gonna. I'm surprised we don't see multisig more.
Right? Well,
I don't know. I don't really follow it that well, but I assume multisig wasn't in play here. Otherwise, they couldn't exit scam with what they exit scam. But.
Like a hodl model would make sense for this, right?
Yeah, where they hold the third key.
Yeah. That's yeah. Well, yeah.
It's messier.
It's a centralized point of failure, but you also have that other person with the other key.
But
it's
it's more complicated, probably worse for privacy.
Yeah.
Harder to implement.
Trade-offs. Shout out to How to Hodl. Just an unsolicited shout out. Really love that team. Shout out to Max and Roman.
Great service.
Our friends in love. Great service. Can't use it in the United States, though, unfortunately.
If you use their prediction market, shout it out on Twitter. I'm curious. Because I feel like prediction market should be a bigger thing.
Yeah. Somebody's talking about prediction markets on Twitter. I can't remember exactly who and in what context, but just ring a bell. All right, back. I actually, just side note here, really like this foray into darknet markets and all this stuff. We haven't talked about this shit in a while. And
yeah, I'm kind of sketched talking about it, but we should talk about it more.
Why? I
don't know. I came to the realization the other day, Marty, that there's over 200 hours of me talking about Bitcoin while drinking whiskey, and that's a pretty scary realization to hit.
Well, I'm at 300 hours at least, probably upwards of 400 hours at this point. You know what? Be the change you want to see in the world. We should be able to talk about this shit openly.
I agree.
Yeah, it is scary.
And please contribute to the defense fund if anything happens.
We have nothing to defend. We're just speaking about freedom here.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Who the fuck knows, man?
Always
be a little bit paranoid.
Yeah, I buy my pot in person. I don't see the reason to buy.
Law-abiding citizen over here.
On a dark net
Please
market.
have mercy.
Yeah, I don't buy pot anymore too often. And I'm in a state where it's decriminalized, so fuck off, feds. I'm kidding. I love you. If my FBI agent is listening today, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're happy. Put a smile on. We're talking about freedom here. Join us. Speaking of the government, Coin Center put out a piece, Jerry Brito and Peter Van Valkenburg, trying to quell fears that regulators are going to start whitelisting cryptocurrency addresses, and they're saying probably not. And I think this came after what I mentioned on stage at Dallas, but nobody had heard about yet. It was the fact that like two Swiss exchanges completed what was said to be a FATF compliant Bitcoin transaction on chain. And at least here in America, it doesn't seem like address lists are coming yet, but as I'm sure you freaks are aware, if you've been listening to this podcast for long enough, you should expect them.
Well, what they're saying specifically is unhosted wallets, so self-custodial wallets where you control your own keys.
Yeah, you should just assume that all the exchanges are.
Yeah, they're already a lost cause.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Cash App holding out on that. What do you call those
Working
things?
group?
Yes.
Yeah.
Stay strong, Cash App. If you're listening, stay strong.
Not bullish on that, but they're still for a huge ass regulated company that is publicly traded. I think they're fighting a pretty good fight, all things considered.
Keep fighting.
Especially the stuff that's happening in Square crypto land, where they're doing the grants and a lot of it's privacy focused. So it's like actions speak louder than words, Yeah,
and they're paying anon devs at Square Crypto. Shout out Z-Man if you're listening. I know you are. But now that we have the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, on top of mind, let this be your periodic reminder that this is an unelected regulator, intranational, supranational, and it is able to control who and when and how you can send money. And nobody elected these people. They were literally appointed by the Party of Davos, the UN-like freaks, the people who go to World Economic Forum. You did not vote for these people. You did not ask for this regulation. You probably don't even need it. And yet this weird, obscure financial regulator based out of France is able to force unruly regulations on you. So just a reminder.
The Party of Davos.
Fuck those people. Chain analysis Latin America. This is actually pretty.
Did you see the link I put?
Analysis. Yes, thank you for the archive link.
I gave Marty an archive link and the freak, so you don't dox your IP address to chain analysis. They've actually been doing good. They've been doing good research reports lately.
Yeah, they broke down the use of cryptocurrencies.
Fuck chain analysis, but it's a good research report.
Yeah. So share of value sent to Latin America by currency from July 2019 to June 2020, so a year, almost 61% was Bitcoin. In second, interestingly, was Tether at 22.6%. And behind Tether is Ethereum, and then another stablecoin, USDC, behind that, and all other currencies account for 5.5% of the value being sent via cryptocurrencies in Latin America, which is a very interesting stat.
Bitcoin is king and Brazil is king.
Yes.
Order of countries, value received: Brazil, Venezuela, Argentina, Mexico, Colombia, Chile, Peru. Interesting. And Brazil way outpaces everyone. But I guess they're a wealthier country too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It makes sense considering their economic standing. I would like to see number of transactions. So I'd be interested. Yeah, I'd like to see if Venezuela's got more or Argentina's got more.
Some pretty cool charts, man. Do you see the top 10 scams by country in Latin America?
Yeah. What's
Oh no, it's top 10 scams in all of Latin America month by month. That's a classic chain analysis stat.
NYCTech.global, JubileeAce.com.
Yeah, don't go to any of these. These are scams.
Yeah.
I've never heard of any of them.
I've heard of Cloud Token Wallet.
Wishmoney.com is a great scam domain. Don't go to that domain.
Yeah. Arabic Club. But it seems like their Latin America market's wising up to these scams.
Yeah, it looks like maybe it's a major drop-off in October.
Maybe it's a product of the Bitcoin price. because you had that spike last summer at its all-time high in July.
Whenever there's
right?
a spike, we probably see a spike in scams happen at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a good reasoning to me.
Yeah. But you'll never know until you go talk to the creators of the scams. We'll link to the archive link there. We're not going to send you to Chain Analysis website.
Yeah, from now on, whenever Chain Analysis comes up, we'll just put archive link.
Yes. And now we're at the software updates.
Quality software updates.
If you're using Spectre, which is an incredible way to set up an easy multi-sig quorum, self-sovereign. Shout out to Stepan Snigurv. I'm definitely butchered your last name, and Ben Kaufman, who've been working on this. They actually had an episode with Stefan Lavera.
Right?
Snigurv, I believe, yes, but I cannot say with any confidence.
They were just on Stefan's pod. And so
yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, you should give that a listen. Stepan was on Stefan's.
Yes. Let's go check that out. They're talking about Spectre version 0.7.
Yeah, 0.70. What's really cool is it's just an application file. So you just install Bitcoin Core on your computer, and then you install Spectre, and they just like basically automatically connect to each other if it's the same data folder if you use the default folder where you say the blockchain, they just automatically connect. If you use a different folder, then you just paste in the different folder, and then they pretty much connect right away. And you can just interface directly with Bitcoin Core and your hardware wallets, whether that's multi-sig or single sig. It is super fucking easy to use. Like it definitely needs some more, review time and like people like running it through its paces and looking for vulnerabilities and stuff. But like I am super fucking bullish. Like it is an amazing interface. And I love that idea that you can just install Core and you just install Spectre and you're fucking good to go.
Yeah, it seems pretty dope. Like that thought that you just downloaded it automatically pairs with the folder that Core is in is like...
No Electrum server needed. The UI is nice. You have coin control. You have like very good like fee selection, granular fee selection. What's really cool is you could broadcast either through your own node or blockstream.info, which is really interesting because... Like actually, like if you broadcast through blockstream.info with Tor, it's better for your privacy than if you broadcast out of your own node. But it's cool that they give you the option.
Yeah. So shout out to the Spectre team. Go check out that episode with Stefan. I think it dropped earlier this week if you haven't already. And we should probably get our asses in shape and get these two on the podcast.
Yeah, I would love to have them on the podcast. I met
guys
Stepan in Riga last year. They also have a do-it-yourself hardware wallet that works with Spectre, which is really cool. He showed that to me in Riga.
There's another person on the Spectre team that I met at Bitcoin 2019 last year.
They walk amongst us.
They do. So if you're using Spectre, make sure you update. This is a major release, I'm assuming, since it's version 0.0.1. Just go download that.
Wait, they released 0.0. Wait, I thought it was 0.7.0.
Yeah, 0.7.0. Excuse me.
Okay.
I misspoke there. But that's a major release, right?
Yeah,
From
I think
whatever.
it's a pretty big release because it's the first one where it's actually an executable, so you didn't have to build it from source.
Yeah. And freaks, I must apologize. This project wasn't on my...
It was on no one's radar except maybe
until
Jimmy
this week.
Song.
Yeah, so Sparrow Wallet version 0.9.2 was released, and I've just seen like screenshots and...
It looks awesome.
Yeah, the really cool thing about it for me is like the good chain analytics that are included in it. It's just similar to oxt.me's, what is that called? KYC.me?
KYCP.org.
KYCP.org. Similar to that, but in your wallet, correct?
I'm not sure about that. I know the coin selection, when you do coin selection, they show you some kind of visualization there. I don't know if it's correct to say that it's actually chain analysis, but it's basically it's a power user desktop client that interfaces with Electrum server. So it's kind of funny because like Electrum's like the OG in the room, right? They've been around forever, but I feel like Spectre and Lily are hitting them on the on the more user-friendly side, and then something like Sparrow comes out, and it's like maybe this is what like the power user who already has an Electrum server is going to use.
Yeah. And so here's the note they have in the release. Sparrow is different from any other wallet, and that is designed for those who run their own full nodes along with an Electrum server instance. Electrum X is recommended as it is performant and supports call batching in the full server API. While running your own server might seem like a high bar, there are many pre-built node options to purchase that make it easy. Your own financial self-sovereignty is worth it, and every node makes the Bitcoin network stronger. And yeah, I think I might have misspoken with that chain analysis thing. This release includes full support for single sig and multi-sig wallets on all common script types, which is pretty big. Standards based, including full PSBT support for all common hardware wallets in USB and air-gapped modes, full coin and fee control with modern coin selection, labeling of all transactions. I know you get hard about that, Matt, so you'll be happy to see that.
That's what you were confused about, is like the coin selection shows you a graphical display of the coin selection, which is really cool. I like to see that.
Yes,
I think it's good for the mind.
Yes, visualize this. So that's what that was.
Really cool. Yeah. I love all these new wallets we're seeing.
It's again
exciting. Yeah,
the infrastructure is getting built out. And then this is something talking about UX and wallets. I'll let you take this one. Umbrel version 0.2.6. You have actually used this one, right?
Well, what's really cool about this update is my biggest concern about self-sovereign Lightning is, well, one of mine is that it's such a pain in the ass to back up. You have these static channel backups, and if something happens, best case scenario, you're able to force close all your channels, and then you recover them to your seed, to your on-chain seed, which is obviously not ideal. Like, imagine you spend 3 years, 4 years, like building out your channels and your reputation and your networking and stuff, and then all of a sudden, like, some kind of catastrophic error happens, and the only way to recover your funds is to clear it all. So with Umbrel, what they're doing here is they're actually creating an encrypted secret deterministically from your seed, and that secret is used to encrypt your backup on Umbrel's cloud. So, and because it has to be updated every time your channel updates, they're sending bogus information sometimes too. So Umbrel has no idea who's, because it's going through Tor, whose backup it is, and when it's being updated properly. And for the user, what that means is, if you just restore Umbrel with a seed, with just the seed word, you get both your on-chain funds and all your channels and everything. It's like one seed to rule them all. And it appears that the plan here is to basically do that for every service they offer. So the idea that you could just restore Umbrel with just a single seed and get all your backups for everything could be configuration, everything. Like, everything that you have set up, like, would be fucking magnificent from a UX perspective. And because it's all through Tor, and because they have this dummy payload information, it's still privacy preserving. So bullish as fuck. Very exciting.
Yeah. I mean, this project came out of nowhere within the last month.
Yeah. And Luke Childs he was just on Stefan's pod, so you should just go listen. You should just be listening to both podcasts. We're part of the same podcast network as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's we have an unspoken agreement with Stefan to push people each other's way, just because the content is that good, you know. This is something I want to bring up. Speaking of Stefan, feel for Stefan in Melbourne right now. I wrote about it the other day. The pregnant woman who was arrested for having the gall to recommend the people in her town protest what she deemed unconstitutional. Well, I don't know if Australia technically has a constitution.
I think they have a constitution.
Yeah, private or sovereignty inhibiting draconian laws, lockdown laws.
Well, she had a Facebook post about protesting the lockdown, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the post is like, let's socially distance, wear a mask. Like, we just want to show up in force and say, hey, we will comply in person, but we don't like complying, and we think this is going a little too far. And she was arrested. A search warrant was executed.
They called it incitement.
Incitement. They
took all of her devices, They took
family's devices.
mobile
they took her sister's
phones,
phone.
computers, which, by the way, have become, for better or worse, have become a necessity of our lives, and they know that. They know they're like impacting work of like loved ones and family members, especially like school now is also remote. And then they arrested her, and she's fucking pregnant and has 2 kids already.
Yeah, she was like supposed to go get an ultrasound that morning or something.
In like an hour is what she said.
Watching that video is like truly like disheartening. Like, holy fuck, how did it get this bad? And
Well, Australia was always.
well, don't think it can't happen here. But with that being said, like there's a gradient scale of this, and I believe America is not that far gone, but we are trending towards that direction, and we need to start fighting against this. Number one is Americans, and then number two is a global society. Like I think everybody across the world should have the inalienable rights that were described in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. I don't think they're very much respected right now in the United States, but we should fight to get those back. And I think I've said this many times, Bitcoin is the best extension and preservation of natural law theory and inalienable rights since the Constitution. That's why I decided to focus all my time and energy on it. But holy shit, like that instance in Australia, like all the Australian freaks out there, keep fighting back. They can't arrest all of you. You guys, your government, not you guys, your government is beholden to the Chinese Communist Party. The entrenchment of the Communist Party within Australian politics is becoming more and more apparent. And that is a complete CCP tactic, is to show up and arrest somebody for wrong thing. I mean, somebody got arrested for wrong thing.
Stefan hasn't been mincing words, so I'm using him as a barometer. We'll see what happens with him. But yeah, like if a government is stopping people from protesting, if they're trying to use scare tactics to prevent people from organizing protests,
peaceful,
that's
compliant protests, like
that. I mean, every authoritarian the first argument they'll make is that it wasn't a compliant or peaceful protest, right? Like that's always the slide they go with. Yeah. But then that's where you know, like, they're obviously in the wrong is once they start trying to stifle that kind of speech.
Yeah. No, and you contrast that to the quote-unquote peaceful protest here in America right now that some would describe as riots, myself included.
Slippery slope, though. You got to be careful with it.
Well, that's why I think the First Amendment, the Founding Fathers were very particular with their language, and you have the right to peaceably assemble, which I think is a very important word.
Yeah, but let's jump into a hypothetical. Because the reality is obviously way more emotional and politicized. Let's jump into a hypothetical. If there's a peaceful protest they don't like, they just send in an agitator. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah. I would not contend that.
So that's the issue, right? That's where all the issues stem from. It's like, how do you decide where, like, what's a peaceful protest versus, a peaceful protest with agitators versus a non-peaceful protest? That's the whole fucking concern, the controversy.
So you're trying to get at that? Some of the riots.
Well, we're specifically hypothetical here.
Okay, hypothetical. Yes.
No, because it is known. Like if you're a government that wants to stop a protest, that's a peaceful protest, you send in an agitator. Like it's super easy to do.
You make everybody look bad.
Right.
Yeah. It's all fucked. It's all fucked. This is why we Bitcoin. Bitcoin is one part of all this, but it is a very important part. And thank you, freaks, for Bitcoining. Do you have anything to wrap on at the end? We're out of topics. Do you have any riffs that you're thinking of?
It was great to see you in person. I missed you. We got to make sure it doesn't go that long this time.
I know. Yeah, it's September. Not many people will be down in the village by the sea that I'm at, particularly my in-laws. So maybe you should come down with the lady, with the fiance, for a weekend.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We could do that. Or a weekday, or whatever.
What else?
A few weekdays.
I mean, you think Powell prints within 48 hours?
I guess that would be contingent on the systemic risks the stock market fall poses to the system. So if you see interbank lending liquidity start to dry up, then yes, he will step in. But until then, I don't know.
I think within 48 hours. I think tomorrow we wake up and the stonks are red again, and then by the end of maybe even by the end of the trading day, they let something tease, like be ready for the next couple of days. It's going to be it. Like they don't have to concrete say it yet.
If that's the case, it would be Munchen. It would be Munchenbutts. I don't think it would be Jerome.
I mix them all up. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. I can imagine a infrastructure plan or UBI stimulus package announced by
$1,200 checks to each person or something like that.
Yes. But the Fed expanding their balance sheet outside of a liquidity crisis in the interbank lending market seems unlikely to me.
Yeah, they should just helicopter money us.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, expect it.
Buy Bitcoin with it.
Yeah.
Are we going to fall under $10,000, Marty, in the next 48 hours?
I sure hope so. It would help bring it would make my daily stack. I've been daily dollar cost averaging for a while now, and I'm very happy that I've been employing that tactic today, especially. I'm more bullish on Bitcoin than
always, right? Always more bullish than the day before.
Yeah, I mean the macro factors, and again, I don't want to pump the company I work for outside of this media company too much, but just what I'm seeing on the ground with the mining stuff is just it's inevitable in my mind. It just makes too much sense.
I love it. Digital pipelines.
Digital pipelines. And we talked about it last week, or excuse me, the live episode, but should be rehashed, pun included. The Equinor project with Crusoe Energy is mining Bitcoin to reduce their flare gas is a very, very, very underappreciated story in this market right now. You have Equinor, which is 2/3 owned by Norway, by the state, and directly contributes to their sovereign wealth fund in the Bitcoin mining game. It's pretty huge.
Massive. We need Norway and the Fed to just start buying Bitcoin. They should just put it on their balance sheets.
Yeah. I've got
Make a name for yourself.
If anybody from the Fed or on the economic advisory team for President Trump wants to talk about how you could successfully speculatively hack your own currency and get away with it, reach out.
That's an important topic. Did you watch David Blaine's reenactment of the movie Up?
I did. I watched part of it. That was I laughed out loud because I caught it midstream, when he was just floating, and it was a faraway view of him just holding a bunch of balloons.
Just holding a bunch of balloons floating up.
It's what the fuck?
800,000 people watching the live stream.
You know what? Everybody's bored on a Tuesday. It's gonna happen.
I was watching it.
I watched it for a little bit. David Blaine pushing himself to the physical limits. Do you remember when he tried to hold his breath for 11 minutes and failed?
I do remember. One day, we'll get him into Bitcoin one day.
Who knows? He may already be.
Maybe he's a freak.
He's a man of mystery. Hey, David, if you're listening,
tweet at us.
The invite is open. I think the humidity spiked about 80% between the beginning of this episode and the end. I'm sweating bullets right now, if you couldn't tell.
Well, I'm inside with the fan on, so
yeah.
I am not.
You have your door open, though. I can hear the birds.
Yeah, my dog was, I don't know if the freaks heard, but my dog was just harassing me at one point, so hopefully it wasn't too annoying.
I think the freaks like the animal background noises. Sorry it didn't rain this episode. I know you guys like the soothing rain. Yeah, but we're an hour and 29 minutes in. I think it's a good place to end it. Matt, been a great rip.
I'm 2 stacks into a 3 stack kind of day. Stay humble, stack sats.
Peace and love, freaks.